Alicia Magnus Lewis here with the Los Angeles Tribune, and I have the absolute pleasure of sitting here with Deepika Sandhu, who is the CEO and founder of Soul Sparks Press, an amazing publishing company, and also an international best-selling author, the author of many books, including Hello Universe, It's Me. And we're gonna get into this conversation and we're gonna have some fun. Okay, so Deepika, your life has continuously evolved over time, but many things changed for you when you scheduled your own breakdown to go on an exploration journey. I know that we've talked about this in the past, but I would love for you to share what it's like to actually be so intentional to say, I'm going to schedule my breakdown. Because when people hear the word breakdown, it can be like a little bit frightening. They can have a little hesitation around it. But you actually took a step and a stance to say, I'm scheduling this and I need some time. So what was that all about?
Yeah, well, I scheduled a breakdown because I couldn't just break down on a random Tuesday, right? That was not my life. A hyper type A personality, scheduled to the nines every single day, busy trying to be super mom, super woman, career woman, doing everything perfect, trying to have Pinterest worthy parties, all of it. And when I realized that something needed to change in my life, I knew, being a Silicon Valley business exec, that, if I could solve these up-and-coming tech companies' problems, then I could definitely sort out my own life. But the only way for somebody like me to be able to do that would be to schedule the breakdown. So I quite literally did that. I did not have the luxury of being Julia Roberts and Eat, Pray, Love and running off to Italy or India, whatever she did. I couldn't do that. Yeah. I had a little kid at home, so I wanted to be able to find myself right inside of my messy life.
And so you scheduled a breakdown and you learned so much about yourself, and it kind of shifted over time, the things that you were doing and what you were focusing on. I'm kind of curious though, what are some other things that you have maybe scheduled in your life? Because you're like, I just want to create the space and the time to really think about this. What are some of those things?
Well, up until I was 40, the only thing I ever scheduled was a vacation here or there, or a spa day or a play date for my child, right? Like, I was not able to schedule in anything that I felt was advantageous to me or to my life, or that was really going to be healing in any way, shape, or form. I don't think I believed that those things could fit in my very, very busy life. And I was very quick to dismiss anything that wasn't about making money and working hard and working late and doing all the things that I was doing to live this life. But post 40, post writing Hello Universe, It's Me, I'm so much more intentional about how I spend my time and who I spend my time with. So now I like to sit back and say, well, what would I love my days to look like? What would I love my weeks and months to look like? And what do I not want them to include? And I'm much more intentional about putting in the things that I would love, the things that give me joy, and letting go of the things that I know I don't really want to do.
So you said the word letting go here, and that can be a phrase that different people have different experiences with. What is it about letting go for you that has maybe created freedom, joy, or just an experience that you're like, I want this experience again, so I'm going to keep letting things go that I maybe never thought I would ever let go of?
I think for me, letting go was creating freedom in my mind to just be the person that I wanted to be in the way that I wanted to be it. So much of letting go was letting go of other people's expectations, letting go of what other people were thinking about me or not thinking about me, letting go of my own internal expectations that were really so highly focused on what would look good to the outside and not on what would feel good to me on the inside. So for me, that's what letting go created, is more of the freedom in the mind. So now when I wake up in the morning, I don't have these thoughts of, oh, I should do this, or I should do that, or so-and-so wants me to do this, or I need to do that. I wake up in the morning and go, what would I love? Ooh. And that's the way that I'm operating my life day in and day out. And that doesn't mean like I want a new yacht or my first class plane ticket to wherever. That's nice. Those things are great. But what I want is my time freedom. And what I want is freedom to just live the life the way that I would do it. So I like to call it my extraordinarily ordinary life. Some days I'm here filming podcasts with you in Hollywood, and some days I'm just walking my dog with my daughter picking up poop, right?
And I always say, picking up poop on the side of the road is true love. you do that for your dog, that is true love. But, speaking about love, what are some of the things that you love to do?
For me right now, I really love the quiet moments in my day, and I'm very intentional about creating those. I love being in silence. I love starting my day with so much intention, with journaling and lighting my candles and just sitting quietly before my household wakes up. That to me is something that I really love to do, right? Yeah. But I also really love writing, and I have been I think I've always been a writer since a really young age. I have all my 10-year-old journals from being diaries from back in the day with the little locks on them.
Because you didn't want anyone to find them.
Yeah, I didn't want anyone to read my preteen angst, back then. But I was always writing and I was always creating, and I think that was my true calling. But so much of my life I didn't pursue my true calling. Now I get to be in love with words and around stories all the time, and it's just incredible.
Well, that's so beautiful. So over 2024, during 2024 rather, you launched a publishing company, Soul Sparks Press, and in a little bit less than a year, you had already signed 30 authors. 40 by the end of the year. So, 40 authors, wow, to Soul Sparks Press. And it really started with your own journey, writing Hello Universe, It's You. You'd been in other books before. You were working on an anthology, but you launched your book, Hello Universe, It's Me. And then you launched a publishing company, and you just didn't launch it, right? You have had people find you, seek you out to be a part of what it is that you're doing, which is helping people find that soul spark within and tell their story. What has your experience been like with expanding Hello Universe, It's Me, while also nurturing the peace, the quiet, the intentionality of your days as you grow a beautifully flourishing business?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm just being very intentional about how I want to build this business. So Hello Universe, It's Me has just taken on a beautiful life of its own. It's now translated into Spanish. It's won 6 awards. It's just making its own waves. It's kind of like giving birth to a child. Like, it just keeps doing its own thing, and you're always like, this is so exciting.
Yes.
But with Soul Sparks Press now, I know from my corporate career, 25 years in Silicon Valley, helping companies be more operationally efficient in what they do, helping them get on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange and ring the bell and become public entities. I know how to build companies. I know how to build divisions of companies. And I know that you can do it in a way where you burn out and you're exhausted and you don't want anything to do with it ever again, or you can do it in a way that really feels good to your nervous system. I'm picking the latter this time, right? And the way that I'm doing that for me is attracting in very heart-centered authors who really believe in the mission of Soul Sparks Press, which is to bring all these sweepingly inspirational stories to life. And I think when you're surrounded by such beautiful stories all the time, and you can see and feel, even before those words get into books and are in hands of readers, the way it's going to impact people, there's just so much power in that. So for me, this is no longer, okay, checking the box, trying to get this many new authors signed up, trying to do this, trying to do that. No, this is like bringing the most beautiful, most magnificent, most soul-sparking books into the world.
So Soul Sparks Press, you're bringing Soul Sparks book into the world. What are 2 or 3 moments that sparked your soul along your journey of seeing Soul Sparks Press really flourish into what it's evolving into?
Well, I think the way Soul Sparks Press started is I would always tell people, you should write a book, you have a great story. And they would be like, oh yeah, I should. And interestingly enough, 90% of people out there want to write a book, right? But a very much smaller percentage than that ever even start to write their book. So when I was out there telling people, you should write it, wow, you have a story, one person turned to me and said, you do it with me and I'll do it. And I said, let's go. And I think for me, that was a total soul sparking moment, right? I think the universe landed this moment in my lap where somebody said, let's do it together. And I could have at that moment said no. I could have said, oh no, I can't do that, I'm too busy, or I don't have the infrastructure, or why would you do it with me? You could go find somebody else. I could have said all those things. But what I said was what was leaping out from within me, which was, let's go, let's do this. And I think all the years that I have spent trying to cultivate my own inner awareness, trying to cultivate so much intentionality in my life, trying to cultivate the awareness that this could be something, landed in that moment with me really being able to hear not just the soul spark out of somebody else's mouth, but being able to feel how that soul spark resonated within me. And that's really how Soul Sparks Press came to be. And that's how you go from 1 author to 40 authors in a year, because it's become such a beautifully heart-centered business where we're all listening to each other's soul sparks and creating something magical.
I love that so much. So, Deepika, you started Soul Sparks Press. You're helping people get their stories out there. And you said 90% of people want to write a book, but they don't. What are ways that people can build up that confidence in themselves, that the belief in themselves that their story, their experiences matter, are important, and people want to hear from them? Because so many people go through life thinking that it's just my experiences, why would someone care? Like, why would I put that out there? Why would I want to get my words out there? Like, why does it matter? But everybody's voice matters and everyone's experience matters. So what are 3 things that you would want to tell people that have lived experiences and have maybe thought about a book and then quieted that voice? Because you stepped into your voice, you stepped into that, and you wrote, and you're continuing to write. So what would you tell them?
I would tell them one thing, and the one thing is you get to decide. Right? Anything in life, whether it's writing a book, changing careers, getting into a relationship, getting out of a relationship, prioritizing your health, prioritizing your kids, anything out there that you might be grappling with and dealing with, the number one thing you're supposed to do is make a decision. You get to decide how this life goes. So many of us are in the passenger seat, right? We're just feeling like we're being dragged along in life, just going through the motions, in the hamster wheel, doing the same thing day in and day out. But the reality is, if you want things to change, you just have to decide to make the change. And when you decide to make the change will happen. So if it is desiring to write a book, instead of listening to that inner hater in our heads.
I like that inner hater. That inner hater pops up, so I like that.
The inner hater is loud and gets in our way and tells us now is not the right time. Now is not the right set of circumstances. Wait till you have some more money. Wait till you're older. Wait till you're younger. Wait till you're taller, thinner, God knows what. Right?
All the things that don't matter.
All the things that don't matter. And we can listen to that voice, fine. Or we could choose to see a different way, which is to finally make a choice or decision to move in the direction of our dreams, right? I always give the quote from Neil Donald Walsh that we are meant to be the greatest, grandest version that we have ever seen for ourselves. And so if your greatest, grandest version wants to write a book, wants to share your story, don't tell yourself the reasons it can't happen. Start to lean into all the reasons that it can happen.
I love that, because that inner hater, it gets loud, and you could stop, you go, and then you pause, and you're like, oh, next week, next month, and it doesn't happen. What are ways that people can build trust around following what was put within them to follow, and with a knowingness that no matter what is going on, no matter what the circumstances, if they just can put that trust within themselves, they can actually decide and make that intention and decide to move forward?
I think it's breaking down what trust is, right? Trust is having enough inner awareness to understand how you really feel about something that is happening in your life. And again, it's the book, it's relationships, it's loves, it's your career, it's your health, all of it, right? Having enough awareness to know how you really feel about the situation that you're in. Not how your mom feels, not how your dad feels, not how the nosy neighbor down the street feels, not how everybody else feels about it, but how you feel about it. Cultivating that awareness is number one on your path to trust, right?
Yeah.
Once you've cultivated the awareness, then trust is acting on that awareness, acting on that knowingness, right? Having faith that if you have seen the vision for yourself, you've gotten the awareness that you're not acting in that vision that you have for yourself, then you've got to take the action, move in the direction of what it is you desire, right? We've got to be able to do that in order to move more fully into trust. But trust is also knowing that if it doesn't go exactly per plan, even that is part of the plan, right? Of where you're headed in your life.
So you said it earlier, let go and then flow. Trusting that the things that are happening, you're allowing to flow. Hello Universe is me. Congratulations. I mean, 6 awards. That's amazing. It's been translated into Spanish. And you've had so much success in Mexico with people buying the book. It was on the Amazon top seller book chart on the release for weeks, and you've gone back to Mexico twice already on a book tour. What is it, do you think, about Hello Universe, It's Me that has been able to resonate with people in the way that it has, to allow them to take a look in the mirror, but in a soft way, like not in a way that is negative, it feels like, oh, what is wrong with me, but really in a way that allows that space and that permission to say, I get to do this and this is okay, and I get to do this for myself and explore, and I don't know what I'm going to find, but I get to do this for myself.
Yeah, I think it's that I showed a very ordinary life, like a regular person's life, right? And within that regular person's life, sometimes we have beautiful highs and we have beautiful lows. But we also have things that maybe aren't going the way that we would want. So even when the life looks good from the outside, it cannot feel good from the inside. And I think I gave people permission to be like, yeah, I don't like how it feels. So even when you have everything, the house and the car and the husband and the kid and the this and the that and all the smiling photos on social media for everybody to see, that is not actually a reflection of how it is connecting within. And for me, I found myself at 40 wondering why, if I had done everything right, why did everything not feel so right? And I think there are so many moments that women have crying in their closets because that's the only privacy they can find in
that or the bathroom.
Where you just need to let it all out, and you're asking yourself, like, what is this? And I think in Hello Universe, It's Me, I not only gave people permission to be seen in those moments, but also to start to give you guidance and support and thoughts on what could you do differently moving forward. How could you really assess and figure out and get underneath your own situation without tearing up the place, right? Yeah. Without running off on a trip to go find yourself, but really inside your normal, messy, everyday life. And I think that message has really resonated with people. I think just giving people permission to explore that even when it looks good, and even when you don't have a ton of things to complain about, it could still not be hitting the way you might want it to hit in your life day in and day out.
Yeah, that's so key too, because sometimes people think it's something big needed to happen for me to not be happy, when it's just like you said it earlier, like what brings your nervous system peace? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just a feeling of like, just this doesn't feel like it's bringing me a joy, and that's not necessarily what you have, but everyone's emotions are validated. In your world, if something doesn't feel right to you, that's okay, and look into that.
Yes. And
then see how you can explore that, adjust that, whatever it may be. Kind of a theme here, because you're one of the curators of the book, D'Essai Divorcée, that really brings together women that have gone through divorce for different reasons. Why did you want to be a part of the community that you've really brought together that has put this book out? And what is the message that you want people to know? Because the women's stories in this book are so varied, but they're also real, and they're real because they're from their own perspective of what they wanted for their life, or they wanted their life to look like.
Yeah, Desi Divorcee is a collection of 12 beautiful, inspiring stories of South Asian women who have traversed divorce. And for as modern as Indian culture has become in so many different ways, the conversation around divorce is still something that's in the shadows. And as divorcees, we wanted to bring the conversation to light, because the one common theme between all the women in this book is how alone they felt, how unseen they felt in those moments. You have to remember, in Indian culture, marriage is the pinnacle of everything. It is the holy grail. What everyone is working their way towards is to get married and to have a big, beautiful wedding for everyone to see. And that's great. It's a beautiful expression for families to come together and to share and to show their love for one another. But when you get divorced, it feels like such a letdown, and it feels like there's so much shame, and like this pinnacle of life that you were meant to do, you were no longer able to do that. So in the Desi Divorcee, bringing together these collection of stories in such a beautiful and powerful way, we just want these women to feel seen again, right? And these women have gone through so many different things, from dealing with addiction and abuse and in-law issues and just you name it. But there's also just validating for these women, not only that, yes, you're allowed to leave a marriage that is that terrible, but what I share in my story is you're just allowed to leave, period. Without a reason.
Right.
Even without a reason. Because we should normalize that sometimes two people get married and they're not right for each other. It doesn't mean one person is bad or terrible or wrong, or that the other person is, some kind of epitome of perfection and there's some giant clash. No. Sometimes it can just be a miss, right?
Yeah.
And you're allowed to just move forward with your life.
Yeah.
Marianne Williamson, in A Return to Love, she says that relationships are just assignments. Mm-hmm. And if you grew and learned from the assignment, whether that assignment lasted 2 days or 20 years, then that relationship was absolutely 100% worth it, right? So in this book, The Desi Divorcee, we want women to see that. We want them to feel inspired. We want them to feel that they too can be as courageous as these women, to step into new versions of themselves. And best of all, that you can thrive post-divorce. You will be fine. Your kids will be fine. Your life will be more than fine. And helping people see that light for themselves.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And you shared your example in the form of you can leave just because, but it really kind of underscores the fact that with anything that you do in life, you can decide because you want to, right? It doesn't have to be for a big reason or because something happened. You can just decide that for you get to choose, going back to what you said, you get to decide what it is that you want to experience in your life and just do that, and don't necessarily feel like you have to justify it to anyone else. Like, now don't harm people. That's not what we're saying here. Right. But it's kind of making decisions for you and not for anyone else, because oftentimes you know what is best for you. And you can search for that for other people or ask for their opinion, but you're always going to know what's best for you.
100%. And you do get to decide. You're not in that passenger seat. You can create mind freedom for yourself, right? To live a life that feels good to you on all fronts. And that was the story in Hello Universe. It's Me. That's the story in the Desi Divorcee. And that's the story of so many of the books coming out from Soul Sparks Press, right?
Yeah.
You get to decide to live a different way, to think a different way, to be a different way. And tuning into that version of you is leading you to the grandest, greatest version of yourself. Yeah. And I think that's what we're here on this earth to do.
That's so beautiful. So you are an author. You're working on another book. Yeah. You are the CEO of Soul Sparks Press, but what's beautiful is that you're also a coach. So can you talk about the fact that it's not only a publishing company, but you're actually coaching people through the writing process, and share a little bit more about the coaching program that you have?
Absolutely. I mean, when you're writing, you are sharing, and especially when you're sharing your own personal story, not only are you writing it, you're healing through it. Yeah. So much of what we're doing is, as you're writing, you're re-experiencing those moments from a different vantage point now, with some perspective now, but the pain, the hurt, the trauma, the things that you have traversed still bubble up to the surface. So much of what we do is support you in going through that experience, right? And allowing and giving you the tools and techniques that you need in order to bring that inspirational components of those stories forward each and every time. So I always say I'm not just a publisher. I like become your new best friend. I'm all in on your life because I understand what it's like to go through this process, go through this journey, to write your story, and how harrowing that can feel. And I'm there just to support them every step of that journey and really coach them through all the different things that are going to come up in their mind. That inner hater we talked about earlier, that hater is alive and well in the writing process, right? And we have to know how to quiet that down. We talk about things like writer's block and what happens there. All of this is trying to move through our own patterns and programs that keep telling us not to do something. How do we allow ourselves to continue to move forward and not have that struggle, right? And have freedom with the page as you're writing to really get the story that's within you to come out, because that story 100% is going to spark souls around the world.
Ooh, it's going to spark souls and it's also going to heal someone's soul. You talk about the healing process of writing because you are truly re-experiencing. I love that. You are also a star in the Pillars of Power movie produced by the Los Angeles Tribune, and you are a producer of the film itself. What is the message that you really want people to know and to understand as part of the Pillars of Power experience, but your message from you?
It's that the power is within you, right? We've given our power away to so many other people in our lives, right? Just think of all the people who you've listened to and whose information you might have absorbed or whose thinking you now believe or acquiesce to. But what if the power was absolutely, totally, and completely within you, and that you just trusted your own inner knowing, your own inner awareness to move forward in your own life? That's what I want everybody to know, that whatever it is you desire for yourself, however you want it to come into existence for yourself, all of that is totally and completely possible, because the power to make the decisions, to make the choices, to free your mind of old patterns and programs and ways of thinking, and to step into the version that you want to become, that's all within you. So what excites me about the Pillars of Power is that people are going to hear about all of these different pillars, right? All the different ways that you can step into being a beautiful version of yourself. But at the end of the day, you can watch the movie, you can read all the books you want, but you got to make the decision to move in the direction of your dreams and of your desires. So that's where the true power is. The power is in trusting yourself enough, knowing yourself enough, and knowing that anything you need is actually within you. That's the power.
That is the power. If we were going to name this episode, I would call it I Decided. Because it's all about decisions and making a decision. So Deepika, now you are a documentary film producer. Your book is being translated. Your publishing company, I use the word flourish again, and I really like it, so I'm going to use it again. Your publishing company is flourishing. What are some of the other things that you just know in your spirit are out there for you that's next?
I think there's going to be more media, more TV, more films, not just from me, but from the authors that are writing these incredible books, right? Our world needs these kinds of stories, and we need them to come through all sorts of mediums. So I feel like more of this is certainly going to be in the future.